Hi, this is the first in what I hope will be a series of videos aimed at the beginner to DesignaKnit to help you design garments for your, particularly for machine knitting, but hopefully along the way we will also touch on hand knitting. Okay, so this is DesignaKnit 9 complete, and in the complete version I have standard garment shaping, original pattern drafting, stitch designer, interactive knitting, DesignaKnit Graphic Studio, and it's for both hand and machine knitting. We'll start with the standard garment styling module. This is the beginner's introduction to DesignaKnit, and it's a very good place to start. Even though I have been using DesignaKnit for years, I usually start my garments in standard garment styling and then take them on to original pattern drafting if I want to refine them further. So let's have a look at standard garment styling. Now, here's the opening screen, and we immediately have a menu that we can make choices. We can start with a new garment, we can open an existing garment, and your most recently designed garments will be listed here, the garments you have been working on, or you have enter custom sizes. The enter custom sizes I'll touch on later on. To start with, let's just choose new garment. The next screen, we choose the age group, or really the size, rough size of the garment. So is it for a baby, child, or an adult? I'll choose this one for an adult. Here the gender, female or male. We'll choose a female. And the garment type, sweater, cardigan, waistcoat, sleeveless pullover or skirt. To start with, I'm going to design a sweater. And here we choose the styling elements of what type of sleeve, straight, raglan, set-in or saddle. I'm going to choose a set-in. And how do we want our front neck shaped? V, round, straight or square? I'll choose round. For the back neck we have the same choices, and again I'm going to choose round. And I'll say OK. Is it for machine knitting or is it for hand knitting? I'm choosing machine knitting, and I'll say OK. And here we get to choose the machines that we want to work with. You have manual patterning machines. You have the Brother range. The newer, I think, Chinese manufactured machines, Passats, and then we come to Silver Reed, Toyotas. So you can choose a standard punch card, or you can choose one of the electronics in the various makes of machines. I have mine set at the Brother KH950i, and I'm going to say OK to that. Here is one of the most important screens for your knitting. This is the tensions. Here you enter the tensions for your garment. You don't have to choose your, well, you have to have tensions entered here, and the base is a 4-ply stocking stitch tension, which is the sort of default, but you can change these by simply overwriting. So if I have 28 stitches to 10 centimeters, then I would enter 28, and if I tab, it will bring me to the rows. That's the tab key on my keyboard, and 28 stitches, 40 rows is a good place to start. These, if you're using the green ruler, the green gauge, to measure your tension over 40 stitches and 60 rows, you would enter your tensions here. You would read the measurements from that green ruler and enter them in here. If you're using a standard ruler to measure your width of 40 stitches and height of 60 rows, you can type them in over here. You change one, it changes the other. If you look, here is 15, height of 60 rows. If I change this to let's see, 38, you will notice that this one will change as well. That's changed to 15.79. So these interact with the other side. If I prefer 28 stitches to 40 rows as my basic tension, I can set that as a default by clicking Set as Default. Or if I have already designed a garment and I want to set the shape from the gauge from that, I can choose Set from Shape File, and it will bring up a list of files that I've worked on. I'll cancel out of that. Now here is the stitch gauge, row gauge for your cuffs, for your ribs. Before you knit a garment, you really should knit a sample of ribbing to know what your gauge is going to be, and you would enter them in here or in here. To start with, I generally leave this alone and I only enter it when I'm ready to knit the garment. Although we have basic gauges entered here, we can design the garment in that, and then later on we can knit the actual swatch in the yarn that you're going to use, in the stitch pattern you're going to use. Then you would carefully measure it and you would enter your gauge in here. It is essential when you knit your swatch that you, the first thing to do is to roll it into a tube and give it some lengthwise tugs. Then you can either wash it or you at least leave it overnight before you measure it, because it will change its shape while it's resting. So if you want an accurate garment, you must do those things. We're going to click OK out of there. Here we have to select our ease table. Now, some people like their garments quite loose. Some people like them well fitted. So casual would be the looser garment. Classic would be more fitted. Oversize you would use for jackets and coats. Zero ease. You would use zero ease if you have a favorite sweater that you, or garment you want to replicate. You can measure that garment, note down all the measurements that you require, and then, because ease is already built into that garment, you would use zero ease. If you were designing a swimsuit, you might use zero ease. So there are times you would use zero ease, but for most times we choose casual or classic. I'm going to choose casual and say OK. And here we can choose our actual size, or if we have already entered custom sizes, we can choose custom sizes. If I click on there, you can see I haven't entered any, but there are some custom sizes here which you wouldn't want to use, but just to show you how it works. So I'm going to cancel out of that and I'm going to choose a standard size. And here we have a range of bust sizes, or if you don't know the actual bust size, but you know you're knitting for a customer, you know her dress size, then you would choose from the dress size. But I'm going to choose a bust size of 38 inches or 97 centimeters. Okay. Now, that brings me to another point. I am measuring in centimeters. It tells you up here what your units of measurements are. You can change them by going to the options, but at this stage, because I already have this open, this will not work. So we have to wait until we've gone through this table. Okay, so here is the actual body measurement here. You can change, so if you have chosen the 97 or 38-inch bust because that's the correct bust size, but the hip is bigger, you can enter the actual hip size there, or you can increase the ease. That plus that is the measurement that you will get around the hip on the finished garment. Here it shows where to measure. If you're measuring a very short jumper, you would measure the waist. It says waist or hip. If you're measuring a longer garment, you would measure around the hip there. Shoulder to shoulder, if I click on that, 36.5. I might want to have wider shoulders and put 39 in there. And again, it shows you measure from shoulder point to shoulder point. Nape to garment length. Are you measuring just down to the waist, down to the hip, or even longer if you wanted a tunic? And again, you can overwrite it and put in the measurement that you want. Arm length. Now, that shows you how to measure. Don't have your arm down straight, you have a bent arm. And if you want a short sleeve, then just measure down to the point that you want it. So instead of being 59.5, I might enter 45. So I've got a shorter sleeve. The armhole depth I don't usually change, but if you want to make it higher or lower, you can change that. The upper arm now, and the wrist. The upper arm, if I click on that, it shows where to measure for the upper arm. If you shorten the sleeve, instead of measuring the wrist, measure the sleeve, measure around the arm where the sleeve finishes, because it will be wider, a shorter sleeve, it will be wider than the wrist measurement. Okay, I'm happy with that, so I'm going to say, oh, I should increase this a bit, shouldn't I? Because I shortened the sleeve, I'll say 24, and say OK. And here is my garment. You can see I have a short sleeve garment, I have a round neck, and I have ribbing. Now, we then have styling options. That's this menu here. Body, neck, sleeve, sleeve head. Now, because it's a set-in sleeve, we don't have, raglan is not operative, and it's not a skirt, so we don't have that. The same menu is over here. The body, the neckline, the sleeve, and the sleeve head. So you can either click here or you can click up here. Okay, now it has a rib. It has a rib of 5 centimeters. If I wanted 7 centimeters, I can put that in and apply. And this part was shortened and this part lengthened. So the total length of the garment from shoulder to hem remains the same, but this part was shortened and this part lengthened. So if I take that back to 5 and apply, if you watch the diagram, you will see it move. So now this part was lengthened and this part shortened, so the overall length is the same. Body blousing, that is this part here. It's the number of stitches to increase across the width of the garment. For machine knitting, we very rarely do that. There are times when we might do it, but for the most part, we rely on the rib to pull the garment in. If I put a figure in here, if I put 2 in, that means increasing in every second stitch and apply. You can see it takes it right out. If I said every 7th stitch and apply, it brings it in. I'm going to enter 0 and apply, and we will just rely on the rib to bring it in. Shoulder drop is here. If I click on that, and you see it's highlighted. I like a shoulder drop of 1.5. Oh, I didn't overwrite it. And now we come to the, you see the shoulders have dropped, the armpit seam, that's that little piece there. How wide do we want that? It's set at 2.5. That's 2.5 centimeters. We might want it shorter than that. I'm going to say 2 centimeters and apply. So now that has shortened the armhole. That's the first cast off that you come to. So DesignaKnit will now recalculate this, the decreases here, because I have shortened that. And I'll say OK. Now we'll come to the neckline. And here the first one is the neckband, and you see the neckline is, the neckband is highlighted. If I only want a very narrow one for a summer top, as I've got short sleeves, I'll call this a summer top, I might put in just 2 centimeters and apply. And now you see I've got just a little band. Neck width, again it's a summer top, I'm going to say 21 and apply, and it's taken it out. Neck depth, I'm going to say 12 and apply, and it's deepened it. I might want it a bit lower than that still and say 14. So you see it has deepened it again. You are the designer, it's up to you. So you measure using a tape measure from the shoulder point down to the depth of your where you want the neckline. If you use a ruler down there, it's better, it gives you a better measurement, and then you enter the measurement into here. And then we have the back neck depth. Here it's set to 2.5. I'm going to leave that, so I'll say OK out of that. Now let's go to the sleeves. We have a cuff of 5. I'm going to make that 2. Sleeve blousing, again, I'm going to leave it at 0. The sleeve straight we should make match the front, the bodice. And I'll say apply. No, that's wrong. This sleeve straight is the, I'll take that back to 2.5 and apply. DesignaKnit will adjust the armhole cutoff here to match the cutoff there. This straight is the little bit of straight after you've done your increasing. You always want some straight before you start casting off. There is no point in increasing that out and then immediately casting off. So always have a straight there. I'm going to leave it at 2.5 and apply. That's it. OK, apply and OK. One more, the sleeve head. Now here, the first one, before gathers and after gathers. This affects this part of the sleeve. Before gathers is the measurement. It gives you a smooth sleeve cap. If you wanted a little puffy sleeve cap, we could say enter 15 there and apply, and you can see now we have a little puff to the sleeve, which for a summer top is quite a nice little feature. So I'm going to leave that. So you have the difference between the before gathers and the after gathers. The amount that's gathered in is what gives you the little puff. And I think that's all OK. I'll say OK to that. And now we have finished styling our garment. So the next thing to do is to use File, Save As, and you should have a shape file set up. I have mine called Mine, and I have one called 9 Experiments, and Test. I'll put in Test, and I say Standard Sweater or standard blouse, let's call it, for summer, and a size 38. Save. Okay, so that's taken you through designing one basic garment in DesignaKnit. I hope that will help you, and this will be just the first of a series of videos to help you learn to use DesignaKnit to your advantage. Goodbye for now.